Hello and welcome to today's Play Attention training webinar, How to Create a New Student in Play Attention 6.0. You see that I'm currently at my login screen. In order to create a new student, I can log in as a coach or as system administrator. I'm going to log in as coach. I created this coach earlier today. I click Login and it brings me to the coach's dashboard. I then select Users. When I click Users, I have two different types of users. I have students and I have coaches. I'm going to remain on Students and click Create New Student. I then come to a page where I can input all of the information for my new student. My student's first name, my student's last name. I do need to create a username and password for this student. My student will use the username and password every time he logs into his Play Attention session. We do encourage you to make the username and password simple to remember. Oftentimes we'll use the student's first name for the username and last name for the password. If you need to maintain anonymity, you may want to use the first initial and a number associated with that student. I can input an email address, however, it's not mandatory for students. I can then create my password and confirm. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see that there are many features that have been enabled. We do encourage you to keep these features turned on as they truly do enhance the learning process. The journal is enabled. The journal allows time for reflection at the end of your Play Attention session. The journal will ask your student what he learned today, what he's proud of, and what he needs to improve. The bank is enabled. The bank is a great motivational program. It allows your student to earn reward points throughout the activities by reaching certain goals. Once points are earned, he can use those points to purchase rewards later in the program. I also have the rating scale enabled. The rating scale should be turned on if you are going to be using our behavior shaping program. The behavior shaping program allows you to work on extinguishing behaviors not conducive to good attention. If you're planning on working on behaviors such as fidgeting and calling out, then keep the rating scale enabled. I also have a sheer genius setting at the bottom of this list. I'm going to click on that, and you see it says always create a sheer genius session. This is a great feature, and we do encourage you to use this feature because it truly does optimize your coaching. What this does, it will allow Sheer Genius to create your student sessions for you. Sheer Genius will look at previous session and decide which games are appropriate for today's session. So when your student logs in, Sheer Genius has already created the perfect session for that student based on previous performance. I can change my avatar and select a avatar or a picture of my new student. I can select male or female. I can also change the theme from child to teen or adult depending on the age of my student. I'm going to keep this at child. When you change the age range of the student, it will change the theme within the view of that student. So when the student logs in as child, he'll see avatars that are children. A teenager will see avatars that are teens or young adults, and adults will see avatars that are adults. It will also change the font and look style appropriately. I can select targeted behaviors. Targeted behaviors are associated with the rating scale and the behavior shaping program. Targeted behaviors are those behaviors that are most often observed during a session. We recommend that you keep this feature off and allow Sheer Genius to select the targeted behaviors for you. Sheer Genius will look at the behaviors that are input by the coach and select the top 6 behaviors that have been observed during the session. Those will become your targeted behaviors. If you would like to select the behaviors manually, you can click Select Behaviors and you can choose the behaviors from this list. However, again, we do recommend that you simply keep that off and allow Sheer Genius to select the targeted behaviors based on the input during the sessions. The Circle of Success is a great feature. This is where you'll input contacts that are important to this student. These contacts are the people that you will keep in contact with in order to keep them updated on student progress and ask them to encourage that student outside of the play attention session. I'm going to add a contact here. I'm going to type in my student's mother's name. The email address, phone number, and the relationship. You can select mother, father, a teacher, a mentor, a grandparent, a coach, anyone who is important in this process. You can add as many contacts in this list as necessary. Below this, we have Sheer Genius settings. The first setting asks how many games should Sheer Genius use per session. If you are doing a 15-minute session, you'll probably be able to go through about 3 different games. If you're doing a 30-minute session, we would recommend about 5 games. If you're doing a longer session, then of course you can select more games per session. My student is going to work with me 4 times a week for 15-minute sessions, so I'm going to select 3 games per session. This means when Sheer Genius creates my session, Sheer Genius is going to select 3 games for the session. I can also select the games for my Sheer Genius list. This means when my Sheer Genius is selecting the games, Sheer Genius will choose from the following selected games. You'll notice here that all of the core games are selected by default. We do recommend that you keep the default games as is because these are very important for your student to master. We have attention stamina, visual tracking, time on task, short-term memory, and discriminatory processing. Academic Bridge is also a core game. However, we recommend that you wait for 12 sessions before starting Academic Bridge, but you don't have to remember that. Sheer Genius is going to track this for you, and when it's appropriate to add Academic Bridge to the mix, it will do so. I know my student very well, and in addition to the core games, I also want to add one of the optional games, which is social skills. I click on social skills, and now when Sheer Genius selects my games, Sheer Genius will select from this highlighted list. If you look to the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there is a medal associated with this game. The medals stand for Beginner, Intermediate, and Advanced Skill Options. This is a bronze medal, which is associated with the beginner skill option. We do encourage you to always start at the beginner skill option and only move up to intermediate and advanced when certain benchmarks are reached. If you feel like you would like to move your student up to a harder level, you can click on that medal and choose from the different game levels here: bronze, silver, and gold, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, respectively. I want to move my student up to silver. However, before clicking apply, we again do encourage you to start at the beginner skill option and keep your student there until Sheer Genius indicates that your student has reached all the benchmarks necessary to move up to the intermediate skill option. You don't have to track this because as soon as your student reaches the appropriate benchmarks, Sheer Genius is going to move your student up to the next level automatically. I'm going to click Apply, and then if we scroll down to the bottom, you see I now have my Sheer Genius settings. Sheer Genius is going to select 3 games per session. Sheer Genius is going to select from the following games: Attention Stamina, Visual Tracking, Time on Task, Short-Term Memory, and Discriminatory Processing, all beginner skill options. Also, social skills will be added at the intermediate skill option. Academic Bridge will be added after 12 sessions. I click on Save Student, and you'll notice that my new student is added to my student list. If at any time I do need to delete or edit the student information, I can click on my student, click on Edit Student, and I can change any of the information I have input for this student. Thank you for coming to today's Play Attention training webinar, How to Create a New Student.